3 years ago, we combined Park Nicollet and Health Partners. And then about 2 years ago, we kind of combined looking at what is our strategy for graduate education. So we had an event and started a conversation. What I wanted to do is just tell you what we've been doing since. We've done a little bit of a national scan about what the conversations are, have a conversation on a couple panels, and then really open it up to your input, your feedback, and your thoughts on that. So since the event at Naegeli, we've been working internally looking at a design process as if Health Partners is a system, what kind of system do we have for graduate education? And again, we've been talking about scope, not scope. We started out with a scope of really graduate medical education, undergraduate medical education, residents, students, and also NP and PA students. And we've been sort of socializing that internally. We've settled on a design team, or at least a design concept. We don't have the people on that, and we'll talk about. And we've also noticed that our system isn't totally broken, so we've continued doing what we're doing, and occasionally do new things. And this is just a grant, I think, with Kelly and Jeremy's help, that starting a rural family practice residency in western Wisconsin. Don Berwick gave to me a very interesting keynote at the IHI next December. He talked about the eras of healthcare. So if the first era was really the lab coat and the stethoscope, was about professional autonomy, it was about the doctor knows best, capping the team and all that. That, as soon as people started realizing that the variability in care was such that it probably didn't offer what our population needed, kind of led to the second era from professional autonomy to the era of really measurement and finance. Is really measuring and then making sure the finance follows the measurement. I think people are starting to realize this total deconstructionist approach to measurement and finance may work a little bit, but it may have some unintended consequences. And he proposed a third era that's based on civility and transparency. And I would suggest to you also that medical education may have gone through that, or health professions education started with professional autonomy, then measurement and finance or compliance. And my hope is that we move towards transparency and also civility. The other thing the last few years, it's interesting, so people that have studied outcomes at least in medical education, have found how people are trained is how they will practice up to 20 years after training. So Dave Ash's article on obstetrical quality shows that. So quality stewardship, if clinicians train in either low stewardship or high cost training environments, they will practice in a high cost up to 20 years later. I would suggest to you, I probably think it's the same thing with experience, and I think it's also the same thing not only for physicians, but other clinicians. And so it reminds me of sort of this paradigm of Health Partners is investing a lot in early childhood development. We have a children's health initiative, knowing that investing early on will really have benefits for decades to come. So that's one of the paradigms we're thinking about. So we really are working towards a workforce model that will guide our training model. And it's interesting if you read the articles or read some of the communication, it's a very political argument right now. And so whether it's the AAMC, whether it's other documents, do we have a physician shortage? Do we not have a physician shortage? What does the team look like? We're starting to have those conversations. I'm not sure we have all the answers, and would love to get your thoughts and some of the thoughts of the panel. The second thing in our design work here is really looking at what does practice ready mean? It is more than just passing your boards. What are some key competencies to make you practice ready? And if they are not what is on the boards, how do we assess for those? And then how do we develop faculty to train for those? And that will be part of a discussion also here. The other thing is sort of the ultimate thing is one of my pet peeves is when people compare healthcare to aviation. And for me in aviation, every 737 is essentially built the same way, and every pilot is more or less trained the same way. So the aviation system, the value of the system is the value of the sum of its parts. I would tell you that healthcare and education is more of a complex system, that the value of the system is the value of the sum of the connection between the parts. So a lot of the design of this evening is actually to have denser connections with the individual parts in the healthcare education system. So that's an overriding goal here. I would challenge you to talk to 3 or 4 people in this area that you don't know and share 1 or 2 new ideas that you haven't thought of that. That would be success to us. And then finally is our approach at Health Partners is that our design for health profession education is a co-creative one. Not that we don't have an idea where we should go, but it's really created with as many partners as we can. When you're in the production mode, when you produce something and then ask for input, every once in a while people feel like they only have the choice of either agreeing with what you have or being disagreeable. A true co-creative approach is having these sorts of conversations early on and doing that. All of our discussions are going to be videotaped and going to be made available online. Again, all the links are on that. My hope is that this is not a one-time conversation. For those of you who want to see the historical part of this, all of 2014 stuff is online on our homepage, and you can see how far we have or have not come. For those of you that are in the social media space, we have a hashtag for tonight, and we've had some pre-conversation, and there's back-channeling going on, and there'll be a continued conversation that will probably include people out of this room. And after these 2 panels, I think next steps is to start having some of these conversations and just to think about part of that conversation is to see how you want to continue to be engaged. You will hear from us on some reflections, your thoughts, and how you want to be engaged, but that's maybe something to see.